From translation, ISV International Standard Version. This 74th day of the year. Today we are reading passages Joshua 16 to 18. Joshua chapter 16, verses 1 to 10. The allotment for the descendants of Joseph extended from the Jordan at Jericho to the waters of Jericho, east of the wilderness. It went up from Jericho into the hill country. From Bethel it went to Luz, and continued to the border of the Archites at Ataroth. It then went down westward to the territory of the Japhletites as far as the territory of Lower Beth Horon, then to Jezer, and ended at the Mediterranean Sea. So the descendants of Joseph, Manasseh and Ephraim, received their inheritance. This was the territory of the descendants of Ephraim according to their clans. The border of their inheritance went from Ataroth-Adar to Upper Beth Horon. It continued to the Mediterranean Sea, and from Beth Horon it went to Mikmethath on the north. Then it turned eastward to Tarnath-Shiloh, and passed along it on the east to Jano. From Jano it went to Ataroth and Nara, and then touched Jericho and ended at the Jordan. From Tappuah the border went west to the valley of Cana, and ended at the Mediterranean Sea. This was the inheritance of the tribe of Ephraim according to its clans. Additionally, they were given cities for their residence from the inheritance of the descendants of Manasseh, all the cities of Canaan that belonged to the descendants of Ephraim. However, they did not drive out the Canaanites who lived in Jezer, so the Canaanites live among the Ephraimites to this day, and they serve as forced laborers. Joshua chapter 17, verses 1 to 18. This was the allotment for the tribe of Manasseh as one of the tribes of Israel, since he was Joseph's firstborn. Machir, Manasseh's firstborn, who was the father of Gilead, received Gilead and Bashan because he was a man of war. So this allotment was for the rest of the descendants of Manasseh by their clans. For the descendants of Abiezer, for the descendants of Helek, for the descendants of Asriel, for the descendants of Shechem, for the descendants of Hepher, and for the descendants of Shemida. These were the male descendants of Manasseh son of Joseph by their clans. However, Zelophehad son of Hepher, son of Gilead, son of Machir, son of Manasseh, had no sons but only daughters. The names of his daughters were Mahlah, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirzah. So they came before Eleazar the priest, Joshua son of Nun, and the leaders, and said, "The Lord commanded Moses to give us an inheritance among our relatives." So Joshua gave them an inheritance among their father's brothers, in keeping with the command of the Lord. Thus 10 portions fell to Manasseh, besides the land of Gilead and Bashan beyond the Jordan, because the daughters of Manasseh received an inheritance among his sons. The land of Gilead belonged to the rest of the descendants of Manasseh. The border of Manasseh went from Asher to Mikmethath, which is east of Shechem. It extended southward to the inhabitants of En-Tappuah. The territory of Tappuah belonged to Manasseh, but Tappuah itself, on the border of Manasseh, belonged to the descendants of Ephraim. It went down to the valley of Cana. The cities of Ephraim situated south of the valley were given to Manasseh. The border of Manasseh was on the north side of the valley and ended at the sea. Ephraim was to the south, and Manasseh was to the north, with the sea as their western border and touching Asher on the north and Issachar on the east. In Issachar and in Asher, Manasseh had Beth-Shean and its surrounding villages, Ibleam and its surrounding villages, the inhabitants of Dor and its surrounding villages, the inhabitants of Endor and its surrounding villages, the inhabitants of Tarnak and its surrounding villages, and the inhabitants of Megiddo and its surrounding villages, the third in the region of Naphath. But the descendants of Manasseh could not drive out the inhabitants of these cities, so the Canaanites continued to live in that land. When the Israelites grew strong, they put the Canaanites to forced labor, but they did not drive them out completely. The descendants of Joseph said to Joshua, "Why have you given me only one portion and one lot as my inheritance? I'm a numerous people, since the Lord has blessed me to this point." Joshua replied to them, "If you're such a numerous people, go up to the forest and clear out a place for yourselves there in the land of the Perizzites and the Rephaim, since the hill country of Ephraim is too narrow for you." The descendants of Joseph responded, "The hill country isn't enough for us, and all the Canaanites who live in the valley of Jezreel have chariots of iron, both those in Beth-Shean and its villages, and those in the valley of Jezreel." Joshua said to the house of Joseph, to Ephraim and to Manasseh, "You are numerous and have great strength. You will not have just one lot, but the hill country will be yours too. Clear it out, and its forests will be yours. You will drive out the Canaanites, even though they have iron chariots and are strong." Joshua chapter 18, verses 1 to 27. The whole congregation of the Israelites assembled at Shiloh, and they set up the tent of meeting there. The land was subdued before them, but there remained among the Israelites 7 tribes who had not yet received their inheritance. Joshua said to the Israelites, "How long will you be slack about going to take possession of the land that the Lord, the God of your ancestors, has given you? Appoint 3 men from each tribe, and I'll send them out. They will go through the land and describe it according to their inheritance. They'll return to me with a description of the land. They will divide it into 7 portions. Judah is to remain in its territory in the south, and the descendants of Joseph in their territory in the north. You are to describe the land in 7 divisions, and bring the description here to me. Then I'll cast lots for you before the Lord our God. But the Levites have no portion among you, because the priesthood of the Lord is their inheritance. Gad, Reuben, and the half-tribe of Manasseh have received their inheritance east of the Jordan that Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave them. So the men rose up and went out. Joshua commanded those who went to describe the land, "Go, walk through the land, describe it, and return to me. Then I'll cast lots for you here at Shiloh before the Lord." The men went and passed through the land, and described it by cities in 7 divisions in a book. Then they returned to Joshua at the camp at Shiloh. Joshua cast lots for them in Shiloh before the Lord, and there Joshua divided the land to the Israelites according to their divisions. The first lot that came out was for the tribe of the descendants of Benjamin, according to their clans. The territory allotted to them extended from the Jordan at Jericho on the north side to the waters of Jericho on the east side of the wilderness. Then it went up to the hill country north of Beth-aven. It continued from Beth-aven to Luz, and passed along to the border of Archai on the west, then went down to the border of the valley at the northern slope of Beth-hoglah. It ended at the northern slope of the Arabah, and descended to the plain. The border then crossed over to the north of the slope of Beth-hoglah, and ended at the northern bay of the Salt Sea, at the mouth of the Jordan on the south. The border was at the northern bank of the Jordan. The border on the west side was the Great Sea. This was the territory of the descendants of Benjamin according to their clans. The southern side belonged to the tribe of Benjamin. It started on the north side at the edge of the Jordan. The border went up to the side of Jericho on the north, then up through the hill country westward, and it ended at the wilderness of Beth-aven. The border descended from there to the slope on the south side of the hill that faces Beth-horon southward, and it ended at Kiriath-baal, that is, Kiriath-jearim, a city of the descendants of Judah. This formed the western border. The border then curved around, going on to the side of the slope north of Beth-hoglah, and ended at the northern bay of the Salt Sea at the mouth of the Jordan on the south. This was the southern border. The Jordan formed the eastern border. This was the inheritance of the descendants of Benjamin according to their clans. The cities of the tribe of Benjamin according to their clans were Jericho, Beth-hoglah, Emek-keziz, Beth-arabah, Zemaraim, Bethel, Avim, Para, Ophrah, Cheph-aramoni, Ophni, and Jebah, 12 cities with their villages. Jibon, Ramah, Beeroth, Mizpeh, Chephra, Moza, Rechem, Urpeel, Tarala, Zelah, Haleph, and the Jebusite city, that is, Jerusalem, Jibah, and Kiriath, 14 cities with their villages. This was the inheritance of the descendants of Benjamin, according to their clans.